you are, Tom. Welcome back to another episode of Stork Talks.
I'm Tom.
And I'm Zoe.
And bicycles are part of life here in the Netherlands, and we Dutch are known worldwide for our use of bicycles as a major form of transport. And this week on Stork Talks, we investigate what is stopping more people from using the bicycle as their main form of transport.
Indeed, Tom, this is a subject close to our hearts. Previously, Stork Talks has spoken with a variety of dedicated bike lovers, including the Hauge's very own bike mayor, or fietsburgemeester in Dutch, Marcel Kleijsen, and Mikkel de Lagrange, who is working with a team from Lola Bikes and Coffee to organize a professional cycling race through the Serengeti National Park in Kenya.
Yeah, bikes truly are everywhere, Zoe, but perhaps they are most needed in urban areas because those places where transport is lacking. And a group of researchers in Oxford University recently released a study in which they found that emissions from cycling in 5 big cities can be more than 30 times lower for each trip than driving a car. And it can be 10 times lower than driving an electric car.
Well, with all of this in mind, Tom, we are thrilled to have Martin Trcka, co-founder of the GoBike Foundation, with us on Stork Talks today. And we want to chat a little bit about bike culture and also what he and his colleagues are doing to spread the bike love. Welcome, Martin.
Hi, nice to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you, Martin. And speaking on the topic of bike love, where did your love affair with biking originally begin?
So yeah, that's my favorite story to tell. There were in my life several points which I remember as bringing me closer to bike. And one of them was that my uncle was fixing my own bike, and I realized how easy it is and how it's nice to work with this machine. And from him, I picked up a few things how to fix bikes, and since then I love to work on my own bike. Later, I also purchased a very old bike, which was from before the Second World War, and this machine just fascinating me because it's working very well and it's still so long. But I think the most important moment is that when I was a kid, I was cycling on this traffic playground, and it was a lot of fun, and I felt very, very cool and safe. And it's 8 years ago, I came to Holland, and this basically became this traffic playground for adults. So I was just enjoying this infrastructure so much that very often I just went somewhere to unknown place and just get lost and cycle around. So this infrastructure made a huge difference for me. Plus, as well, this combination with the love for old bikes and being able to fix them, that all probably made me this bike lover I am today.
Yeah, and as a bike lover, you've actually acted upon that love and pursued bikes in a different way. So you founded the initiatives, the foundation, I should say, of Give a Bike in the Netherlands. So what is it that you do specifically?
Yeah. So as well, when I arrived to the Netherlands, I saw everywhere all those abandoned bikes on the street, and for me, I see treasures, something I really would like to put my hands on and start to collect them and save it from being rotten. So the idea was very simple, just collect those abandoned bikes and fix them and give them second life. And because my background is in forest and nature conservation, I thought that the bike is a sustainable way of transport can make a big difference in reducing the CO2 and saving people from using a fossil fuel or a similar resources. So I decided to join or start working with collecting bikes and fixing them and giving them to social projects worldwide. And so the mission of the GoBike Foundation is that indeed we collect those bikes very often from private people, from individuals, from organizations, from municipalities. Then with a team of our volunteers, we pick them up, and then we partner with another NGO, and we give it to them, and then they are in charge of the final distribution to the people who benefit the most. So it's mostly disadvantaged people, like kids from poor areas, or women who have like a cultural distance to cycling and so on.
Okay, yeah. So you've given bikes. Well, Give a Bike has given bikes all around the world, which is fantastic. We'll talk a bit more about that later. But just to come back, Martin, to your point about emissions and this whole notion of bicycles being so environmentally friendly. Recently, they found, we know we're obviously with the pandemic, there's been a lot less use of cars and other forms of not so environmentally friendly transport. They found in this recent study, they found nearly half of the fall in daily carbon emissions during the lockdown in 2020 came from reductions in transport emissions. So the pandemic has forced countries around the world to adapt in that way, obviously to reduce the spread of the virus. But and I think we were talking about this earlier, do you think that Corona has given an added impetus or reinvigorated the interest in bikes as a form of transport here in the Netherlands and even elsewhere?
Yeah, I definitely see that, and I see this, like, that the people are a bit more reluctant to use public transport, and also I read in the newspapers about the boom of sale of e-bikes, and there is like a obvious a link between Corona time and boom of bike sales. But what I also see is much more a discussion about the bike infrastructure and improvement of it. So and for example, in this bigger worthwhile view, I know that in Sierra Leone there was the outbreak of Ebola earlier in 2000, and that was the first time when people in Sierra Leone started to use the bikes a little bit more, exactly because they were a little bit afraid to use the public transport. So they were a little bit more aware of this possibility to use the bikes to kind of avoid potential infection.
Wow. So really, it seems like pandemics or infectious diseases have a sort of a a positive effect in terms of moving people onto the bicycle that perhaps wouldn't have got there otherwise. Looking on the bright side.
Sorry for interrupting you. I think you bring up a really interesting point, and that's also a question what we're asking today is what is stopping more people from using bicycles as their main form of transport. And we are jumping back and forth between the Netherlands, where there's such an active bike culture, and other countries, like you said, where you're trying to create that bike culture. And bringing it back to first maybe start here in the Netherlands, Give a Bike, you've given bikes, as the name suggests, but you've also completed other projects to encourage people to ride bikes. So for example, here in the Netherlands, you've done cycling lessons and cycling lessons for people here in Utrecht. So could you tell us a bit more as to why this is so important, and why this was one of the projects that you decided to do?
Yeah, I would clarify here that this project actually was done mostly with another two organizations we partner with. It was a Bike Split and Fietsmeesters, and we were mostly providing the bikes for the lesson. But to get the point, even in the Netherlands, are people who still don't have a bike and who don't know how to cycle, and there are many different cultural barriers for the people, as well as the financial barrier. So it's usually combined that the people just don't have money to get a bike, and then it's a little bit difficult for them when they are a little bit older to start learning how to cycle. But I think also they just like they see around them, if they want to get from point A to point B, it's very useful to know how to cycle, and their like a motivation is just stronger than their cultural barrier, and they know that there are initiatives like Speedmeisters who can help them to learn how to cycle, and they just go for it, which is great.
I mean, yeah, I think it is interesting, this idea of integrating. Obviously, I think many people who come to the Netherlands from outside, as you said, Martin, they are not. Perhaps they're not used to using bicycles as a form of transport. Obviously, if you grow up here, that's very different. And I'm sure Tom can tell us about all the things that the Dutch people do from a young age to make sure that they're all very comfortable on a bicycle. But as you said, if you come here as an adult, and also perhaps from countries where, as you said, there are cultural barriers. I mean, I know there are countries, certainly where I come from in South Africa, there can be cultural barriers to women using bicycles. And I think that's not only there, I think that's quite wide, it's quite common. I mean, even if you just also think about people's dress, if you don't wear clothes that facilitate using a bicycle, that in itself can just be a barrier. So, I mean, I think integrating people into the Dutch culture, that the bicycle is a big part of that. And it just made me wonder whether that should also be part perhaps of the inburgering exam, which doesn't cover this at the moment. But it certainly, when we hear about projects like yours, like lessons for people, perhaps for adults, and also access to bicycles, do you have other projects like this lined up, or did you see your organization getting involved with more of those types of projects?
You mean for like in the Netherlands?
Sort of, yes, cultural integration through bicycle use.
Yeah, so I believe that basically for every project we do, that we are like changing a little bit the culture of the place where the bikes come. So like in the Netherlands, yeah, it is kind of obvious that we provide the bike and that the people will just use it and like start to be more Dutch, let's say. But in the other countries, the main point is to like now. I think maybe this question I would maybe rephrase it. Can we like come back and I
we
a
can.
little bit lost.
No, of course.
Line.
No problem. We'll come back to that. But perhaps then, Martin, I could move us on to, because we're speaking a little bit about Utrecht and with this, where this project took place, and we know that Utrecht is a very forward-thinking city in terms of bicycles. Even within the Netherlands, it's been a front runner in terms of adapting its infrastructure to suit bicycles and people rather than cars. Now, where we based here in The Hague is the other end of that spectrum. The Hague has the most number of cars in the Netherlands. And indeed, when we spoke with the bike mayor, he said that was one of his major goals, was to try to reduce the cars here and get more people onto bicycles here in The Hague. I mean, what are your thoughts on these sorts of challenges, just even within the Netherlands? How can we make this transition from cars to bicycles?
Yeah, so this, it is not my expertise part of the job, but I have some thoughts. I think those changes are very much depending on the local government, on like the gemeente leaders, and their will to move forward. I can imagine that it has something to do also with this like a social demographic situation in the area. So perhaps in Den Haag, there are people just like use the car a little bit more than in other places because, I don't know, age or job or this kind of thing. So I think there has to be just like a little bit more pressure maybe on the government to do the steps as Utrecht did, and yeah, then it can work out.
I think it's an interesting discussion, and indeed, you're right. There's probably a significant part or role that the government needs to play in this, and I think perhaps we can go back to your current projects and the strengths and the activities that you do. So we've spoken a little bit about the projects here in the Netherlands, but we would like to look a bit further afield. So the pedal enthusiasts like yourself, you are also organizing projects in Kenya, Sudan, and Sierra Leone. So could you tell us a bit more about these projects in other countries that may not have that traditional biking culture yet?
Yeah, I would maybe tell you more about this Sierra Leone project, because that's like the most fresh project we just completed, and into which I have the most insight. And the biggest problem in those places is that people don't have a way to get a bike. It's usually expensive for them, and it's like very often not even available. We are focusing on like a poor regions, and our last project in Sierra Leone was located in district Kenema, which is one of the farthest from the capital, where the kids have a long distance to school, and it is also one of the places where the level of education, not level, but that the education is, let's say, not very common. So the bikes we sent are supposed to help kids to get to the school, which are far away. And so I think that the first problem is that they just need to get a bike, and then I think the infrastructure, the roads are already there. They're of course not so safe, but we try to like overcome this first step. Yeah.
I think one thing that you pointed out that I didn't think of immediately, but it's a really good point, is that of course the bike, like it plays a role in our culture, but you mentioned it may give some people access to education that may not have had that before. Are there other benefits or things that we may not recognize at first, but that a bike can be a great help with, or a great help for?
So the bikes we sent to multiple places in Africa are, for example, helping for like a nurses to get to their patients in less time, and so there are multiple different type of benefits for the society. So it is like bringing closer to getting all the services as education and jobs and trade, and it is also fun and it's healthy. But for these people where we are sending it, it's like a secondary benefit.
Yeah, it's a necessity. I mean, coming from Africa, I know that the distances are large, and that often there is not very advanced public transport systems in place. So I guess this is where, a bicycle can be really helpful. But I'm just interested to know, Martin, whether you know how, because there's also different kinds of terrain, and as you said, not all cities are necessarily prepared in the way that we are here, not prepared for bike travel. I mean, what, have you had any feedback about that? How do people there? Okay, so they get the bike from your foundation, which is great, and then how does that work in terms of where they can actually use these bicycles?
Yeah, so we are always trying to work with someone who has experience from the local situation. So in terms of Sierra Leone, we work together with our friend who is actually from there, and who gave us advice what is suitable or not. But in those cases, basically every bike was fine. but we had also another project where we got like a, let's say, strict requirements how the bikes should look like and what the equipment should be. So we try to work with that as well. But of course, it is for us. We have like a limited also opportunity to like make only, let's say, mountain bike or only racing bike. So we are just doing our best, but it is not something what we would like prioritize, let's say.
Yeah. So that was going to be my question as well. So what might these differences look like on a concrete level? So people might, what might people request that makes a difference depending on what type of bike and what type of material you use?
So once we got a request that the bikes should have a chain guard or the kettingkast. So because the roads are very dusty, and if the dust would get in the chain, that they will never get it out. So that was like a one specific requirement, which for me was quite surprising because like when I grew up, I was also cycling on dusty roads, and I have my BMX with no chain guard. But yeah, we just try to fulfill the requirements and just do our best.
Just before we move on, Martin, to our next question, we spoke a little bit about your project. You just told us about Sierra Leone, but I believe you're currently now involved with projects in Palestine and Togo. Could you tell us a bit more about those? I mean, what are you providing, and who are you providing for there?
Okay, so yeah, as you said, we are now working on a project in Togo. The goal is to send a container full of bikes. It is for Terre des Jours. It is an organization who is taking care of young people, and the idea is the same, that they will receive the bikes and will be able to get to their school much easier and faster and actually get there. And the other project is we work with a Palestinian Young Corps, and that is an organization which, for example, established the first woman cycling team in Palestine, in Gaza. And this project is interesting because we are only helping to organize this, so spread the attention on our social media, and we will help to actually load the container with the bikes. The bikes will be donated by Amsterdam municipality, and yeah.
Again, well, we hope. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, that as the name says, the bikes are again like going mostly for young people and partly for this women racing team, and it is to also increase this awareness about the bikes and their like a possibility of sustainable transport.
Absolutely. I mean, how long does a project normally take? Like a project like this, the one to Palestine, for example, does it vary? Or yeah, I'm just sort of intrigued. How long does it take to get it all together and get them the bikes?
Yeah, it is very much depending how it is financed. So this project in Palestine actually is financed by a crowdfunding campaign. So as soon as the money are collected, then it will probably be much faster. So this one is taking now like I think a few months, and I think now it's over 50% is collected, but there is still a little bit more to go.
Great. Okay.
Yeah, I think what I would like to do, because now we're coming sort of to the bread and butter of this episode as well, in the question is, what is stopping more people from using bikes as their main form of transport? You said one of the first things, of course, is having bicycles, and we've spoken about the initiatives and many things that you do. And let's say that is one thing that you're working on, but what are the other biggest challenges to perhaps create a culture around these bikes? Like what hurdles do we need to face to effectively integrate bikes in other cultures and help them become the main form of transport or a good alternative form of transport?
Now, yeah. So of course, like one thing is to get a bike. Other thing is to, for example, be able to fix it yourself. So it is also a part of the idea that we don't send only bikes, but we also send the tools and the parts, so people can fix it themselves. And of course, it is very important to have some kind of a chain of places which can fix the bike, and that kind of brings me to the next thing, which is just like a infrastructure of the bike lanes, which of course is just the best thing to do if you have a lot of bikes, because if not, then the bikes became very like an endangered thing, because if you mix cars and bikes to one line, then it's not good. So the bike infrastructure is crucial for this.
I mean, it may. Well, I'm just theorizing here, Martin. But your foundation obviously provides the bicycle side. Of course, the infrastructure is more linked to governments, I would say. But you're doing what you can from your side, and also you mentioned the repairs, which is fascinating as well, because it's true. It's all good and well having a bicycle, but you need to know how to repair it, especially if you live in a far place, far from shops or any such things. But do you think perhaps if more and more people have bicycles, there may be then a pressure on, say, governments to provide more places for people to create spaces for those bicycles?
Yeah, that's. I believe that's how it is, and there might be some governments which are a little bit blind, but if the government, they should like collect the data about mobility and react to the situation.
Yeah. I just one perhaps one final question, or I love the aspect of bikes that we've spoken. Like you spoke about the government, you spoke about the practical, but I'm also very curious towards integrating it into the culture. Because when I think back for myself, and that's where this question is coming from, is I remember getting bicycle lessons at school, and at some point having to do an exam, like a bicycle exam, but it was all integrated into the curriculum. Do you think that is a sustainable or a good way to eventually, really bring it into a culture?
That's the interesting thing. I haven't thought about it, because I'm originally from Czech Republic, where also like everybody knows how to cycle, and never had actually any lessons besides that my mother took me to this traffic playground. But I think that will be a very interesting thing. But like if this thing would like let's say stuck into this like educational system, that would be fantastic, and it would already show that the bike, it is already bike culture if you have a bike lesson in school.
Yeah, it's really embedding it into the culture there.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Tom, go ahead.
I was going to say, was there anything else you wanted to add, Zoe, or shall we?
No, I think we're heading towards the end, but we could talk a little bit about how people might want to support Martin and the Give a Bike Foundation.
Exactly. The one of the last questions that we would like to ask you, Martin, is of course if there are fellow bike enthusiasts or pedal enthusiasts or other people perhaps listening on bikes as we speak, they would like to support this initiative of yours. How can they do that?
Yeah. So as you can imagine, that for us, like the whole concept stand and fall on people who donate a bike. So you can contact us and donate a bike. Of course, we are always as well in need of some financial support to like pay our projects and spare parts. And the third way how you can support is to become a volunteer, and we can train people to be able to fix a bike. And we have also a possibility to help the foundation in many other ways.
Okay, great. So you could do it financially, or you can give your time and expertise, or as you said, you're even offering training to people who would like to learn how to fix bikes, which is great because, to be honest, I myself have thought a few times, oh, I would like to know a little bit more about keeping my bicycle running well. So that sounds like a win-win for people who are interested.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for everybody else who wants to know more or where they can actually find that information, then you can find that on the website of Martin at www.giveabike.nl.
Right. So thank you so much for joining us today on Stork Talks, Martin.
Yeah,
it's been a
my
pleasure, yes, and inspirational indeed. For our listeners, please stay tuned for another episode at the same time next week. And of course, you know that you can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and our podcast is on Anchor. So watch if you want more information about any of our programs, including this one, take a look there. You can also find us on YouTube now. So for those of you who like a picture.
We could do a little wave at the YouTube people. That's it. Now, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode, and we hope to see you back soon.